You have been a Christian for 3 decades, most of those within the evangelical church, who still see homosexuality as a sin. As an evangelical Christian, what brought you to a place of no longer viewing homosexuality as a sin?
Well, the shift from position as gay as sin to the current position I hold, which is gay as a normal variation on human sexuality, that's not addressed in the Bible at all, well, it was quite a long process. At first, the shift began in relationship with non-Christian, lesbian, and gay people. As I came to know more gay people, I saw and understood that most people knew they were gay sometime. I mean, the usual number is between 5 and 8. They know that something is different about them as in comparison with their peers. It's not a sexual knowing at all. They just have an awareness that they're experiencing life differently from their peers. And by puberty, they can tell they're not responding to the opposite sex in the same way that their friends are. And this was a consistent and strong message that I heard. The other dynamic that I saw was in intimate relationships between couples. There was no difference in love, commitment, fidelity, responsibility, and parenting in the lives of my gay friends compared to my straight friends. It may seem quite a simplistic thought that caused a final shift to becoming an advocate within this community. But it was just a simple thing that stymied my evangelical dogma on the issue. I wondered, how can God, that loves more perfectly than I do, not love this group of people more than I do? And how can He expect them to let go of all of the relationships, the security, the safety, the love, and the comfort in their lives that they see and experience, to let go of that, to seek and follow a God that they couldn't see? I know that God's ways are way above mine, but as I understand it, when God created Eve for Adam, the need that He was fulfilling was Adam's loneliness, not his need to create children, but God created Eve to take care of Adam's loneliness. In fact, children didn't even come until after the fall, which I think is very interesting too. Clearly, God cares about intimate relationships, and He cares about companionship, and He cares about kinship. It just didn't make sense to me that God would lay this extra burden on people who were clearly expressing who they were created to be. There was no decision to be gay or no active rebellion, or the tired old excuses of the overbearing mother and the absentee father in early childhood sexual abuse. I just didn't see that in the lives of my friends, and it just didn't bear witness to me. And at that point, I could be an ally. I felt compassion for people who were clearly being unjustly treated socially and certainly within the church. But I see an ally. An ally is a person that's willing to stand beside you, but an advocate is more than that. An advocate will stand in front of you, and maybe when you're just too tired to fight the battle anymore, an advocate will take those hits and do the battle for you. An advocate says to you, let me take the hits with you. Let me suffer alongside you. So when I can feel the pain and the suffering of others, and I'm willing to do something positive to end that abuse, that's advocacy. What caused me to take the next step and to become an advocate was personal Bible study. Study on the issue of same-sex relationships and faith. And I sat with books and several versions of the Bible and 2 computer screens open and numerous books on history, and I just spent a day on each one of the 6 sections of Scripture that are associated with the modern traditional interpretation of homosexuality and faith. I did 1 verse a day over a vacation period one winter, and at the end of each day I snowshoed in these canyons and I thought about what I had been reading. And it was laying so heavy on me on these trails that I think every day without exception, I was crying in absolute utter frustration and empathy about what had been done to the gay and transgender community using the Bible as a weapon. For the past several years, I've been refining those beliefs about sexual orientation and gender identity with research, relationship, and of course, always the Bible. It was pretty uncomfortable for me to not know and to not have answers for years. Up until then, I had been a person that was so sure about things, the so sure about things person. And true to the roots of my Christian faith, though, just as our Jewish forefathers did when they were trying to struggle with answers and questions, they asked a lot of questions. And they were comfortable in asking those questions and struggling with the journey and finding those answers. I had to get comfortable with not knowing. And for a person with my background, that was uncomfortable for a while. I find that this is not popular, though. It's not popular to be uncomfortable in the conservative church or with conservative pastors to be in doubt. They usually have to have answers to theological questions. But that's where I found myself for a couple of years, was just trying to understand this issue. We each arrive at our personal beliefs and interpretations about what the words of Scripture mean to us, what they speak to us. We use our experience both in life and our experiences with the Spirit of God. We use our reasoning skills, and those certainly vary. And we use the teachings and the traditions that we adhere to, and then our personal reading of the Scriptures in the translation that we do read to arrive at our beliefs, our theology, and our dogma. And we all interpret. All of us do this. I don't think I was unusual for the typical person a decade ago sitting in conservative churches. I didn't have any intimate relationships with gay people, and certainly not transgender people. I believed what I'd been told about the Bible, what it said about the issues of gay and lesbian people without confirming it at all with any personal study. And I find this is very typical. And so with no intimate relationships with gay people, no investment in time and study on the subject in the Bible, yet with that basis, I knew and formed beliefs about a minority group. And I find this to be very typical. Now, with personal relationships, different experiences, more expansive experiences, lots of personal Bible study, still applying my reasoning skills and my interaction with the Spirit of God on this issue, I have a different theology or belief that I used to have, 10, 12 years ago. I believe that it is not a sin to have a homosexual orientation. I also believe that same-sex, committed, monogamous relationships are not in any way in opposition to the will of God. I don't think that the Bible addresses the issue of same-sex loving people specifically in relationship at all, anywhere in the Bible. In lieu of marriage, people are making commitments with one another before God and community, and to me, that's equivalent to a godly marriage, when in many states, they can't legally get married. And until we allow people to enjoy the legal and social protections of marriage, the way in which gay and transgender people can express their commitments, it's limited. So I'm glad that federally, we are moving in the direction of equality. But at the same time, I'm also sad that it's not Christians that have led that call for fairness, justice, and equality. The Bible arcs towards equality and fairness in the book of Revelations, and the church needs to arc with that. The church needs to go towards equality too, but we have stood as a bloc, certainly federally and in the states, to the commitments between gay, lesbian, bisexual, and transgender people within a legal marriage, within the protection and enjoyments of a legal marriage. So I'm Kathy Baldock with Canyon Walker Connections.